Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. Today I am filming a video that is pretty serious and pretty close to my heart. It's probably going to be a little bit controversial, but I am extremely passionate about this topic and I am extremely disturbed and worried about the FDA report that was released. Basically, the FDA released a report saying that they're still investigating the grain-free dog foods that are supposedly causing heart disease in dogs. So basically, this study's been going on for over 4 years, and a couple weeks ago the FDA released a report basically just stating that they're still looking into it, but it has caused pet owners to be in a frenzy. I work in a dog food store, and I can't tell you how many calls and people have been coming in freaking out about this report. Honestly, I think that the FDA should be held accountable for all of this because they released this report that has no conclusive evidence, and they're still looking into it, and people are switching from really great high-end dog foods with great ingredients to low ingredient dog foods, low quality ingredient dog foods, sorry, just because of this report that was released, and they literally have no evidence yet. It's just, it's a completely corrupt system, the pet food industry, and it honestly sickens me. And so I just want to keep this intro short and get right into the facts. So pretty much the FDA is saying that grain-free dog foods are causing dogs to get heart failure because they contain lentils, peas, chickpeas, sweet potatoes, and this is causing the dogs to have heart failure because the foods are based on plant-based proteins. So essentially people are freaking out trying to switch from grain-free to with grain foods. So the list of grain-free foods that the FDA released is Acana, Signature, Taste of the Wild, 4Health, Earthborn Holistic, Blue Buffalo, Nature's Domain, From, Merrick, California Natural, Natural Balance, Origin, Nature's Variety, Nutrisource, Nutro, and Rachel Ray Nutrish. Now, I think that grain-free foods can be bad, like any food. You need to look in the ingredients. 80% of pet owners are feeding grocery brand foods. Grocery brand foods are foods that are sold in the grocery store. They are sold in the grocery store very cheaply, and so the quality of ingredients in grocery brand foods aren't great because they're sold so cheaply, so the ingredients are very low end. Essentially, problems come in if you're feeding a low quality grain-free food. A low quality grain-free food is a food that uses plant-based proteins instead of meat-based proteins. So a bunch of grocery brand foods are using plant-based proteins instead of meat-based proteins to fill their foods. So this is an issue because the grain-free foods that are high-end are filling their foods with meat-based proteins, which is what you want. And they're using the peas, the chickpeas, the lentils, the sweet potatoes as a carb source, which is what you want. A carb in a dog food should be low on the glycemic index. The glycemic index measures the amount of sugar that is present in a carb or a food. You want a carb that is low on the glycemic index because if it's high, your dog is going to have a sugar high or a sugar rush and then a crash. You don't want that. You want carbs low on the glycemic index. Now, the grain-free foods in the grocery stores, or the low quality ingredient grocery brand foods, are using these peas and lentils and sweet potatoes and chickpeas as the protein source instead of the carb source. That is extremely dangerous because dogs and cats need an amino acid called taurine. Taurine is an amino acid that is found in meat-based proteins, and it is found in the tissues in animals. It helps to build the heart wall, the retina of the eye, the brain. It is extremely essential. The lack of taurine is what is causing the heart disease in these dogs because the taurine helps to build the heart wall. So when these grocery brand or low-end foods are filling their protein source with plants, the animals are not getting their taurine. The taurine is what builds the heart wall, so obviously they're going to have heart failure or heart disease if they don't get taurine. So they need animal-based protein, meat-based protein in their diet as the main protein source so that they get the taurine that they need. So the issue with grain-free is if you're feeding a low-end grain-free food, your animal is not getting taurine in their diet or not enough taurine in their diet because the protein source in their food is coming from what should be carbs, and they are not getting enough meat-based proteins. But if your dog is or a cat is on a high quality food where the protein source is coming from meat, then they are getting the taurine, then they are not at risk from heart disease unless they are genetically prone to getting it. Genetics is what is causing this heart disease in some of these dogs, not just their food. So I did the math. It says that of the 515 dogs that were reported to have heart disease, 67 reports were from dogs who are being fed the brand Acana. Now, if you do the math, 67 dogs were reported feeding Acana out of the 77 million dogs in the United States. So if you do the math, that is 0.000087% of dogs that were reported to have heart disease being fed Acana out of all the dogs in the United States. So literally a fraction of a percent. If you look at the 515 dogs that were reported to have heart disease in the United States out of these 77 million dogs, that means that 0.00067% of dogs in the United States were reported to have heart disease. So this is a valid concern, and it's a valid thing to look into. However, 0.00067% of dogs in the United States were reported to have heart disease. Now, the thing that is making me so flustered, as you can probably tell, and so worried for the dogs in the US right now is that people are switching from brands like Acana and Origin to brands like Science Diet or Royal Canin or Pedigree or Purina, and that honestly just breaks my heart. So I'm going to pull up some ingredient lists for you guys and we can compare ingredients. It is extremely important to look at meat content in a food, not protein. As I explained earlier, so many of these brands are putting in plant-based proteins that should be used as carbs and are using them as their protein source. So yes, the protein percentage might be great, but that does not mean that the meat content is there. I have my laptop here. So first we're going to look at Acana. The regional line. The regional line in Acana is 70% meat content. So I'm looking at Acana's Meadowland Regionals line, and if you look at the ingredients, the first ingredient is deboned chicken. So essentially when you're looking at a dog food list of ingredients, you want to see the first ingredient as a fresh meat, meaning chicken, pork, lamb. Alright, so I'm editing the video and I realized it cut me off. So essentially what I was saying is that a fresh meat is a meat that was never cooked before it was added in with the rest of the kibble. So it was just cooked the one time with the rest of the kibble. And then a meat meal, meaning chicken meal, pork meal, lamb meal, was dehydrated before it was cooked with the rest of the kibble. So essentially it was cooked or processed twice. So you always want to see a fresh meat followed by one or two fresh meats followed by a meat meal, but it should be a specific meat meal like chicken meal, pork meal. You never want to see meat meal, animal meal, protein meal, or bone meal, all that type of stuff. You don't want to see that. And then you never want to see byproducts in your pet food. So that's essentially what I was saying. So yeah, let's get back to the video. You never want to see a byproduct, which is essentially the feet, the beak, the hooves, all that type of stuff. That is not a complete source of protein for your animal. So in Acana's ingredient list, the first ingredient is deboned chicken, deboned turkey, chicken liver, turkey giblets, chicken meal. So essentially those first four ingredients are the fresh meat source. Then the second ingredient is the chicken meal, which you want to see, catfish meal, and then with whole red lentils, whole pinto beans, whole green peas. So those are all very low on the glycemic index carb sources. So you basically want to see a fresh meat, a meat meal, and then your carb sources. Chicken fat, whole green lentils, whole chickpeas, lentil fiber, whole blue catfish, cage-free eggs, rainbow trout, pollock oil, fish oil, which is a source of omega-3s, natural chicken flavor, chicken heart, chicken cartilage, whole pumpkin, whole butternut squash, so you're getting your fiber in there, mixed tocopherols, which is your preservative. A mixed tocopherol is a natural preservative, meaning it comes from vitamin C, E, or rosemary extract. So you want to see that in a pet food. You do not want to see BHA or ethoxyquin, none of that stuff. And then you have zinc proteinate, dried kelp, carrots, whole apples, whole pears, freeze-dried chicken liver, freeze-dried turkey liver, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, copper proteinate. So at the end there, you're getting in all your vitamins and minerals, your sources of fiber, your fermentations, all of that type of stuff. Now, let's look at the science diet, prescription diet. So we're looking at the multi-benefit WD prescription diet Hill's science diet. The first ingredient, whole grain wheat. Not a fresh meat, not a meat meal. And the top 3 allergens in dogs are wheat, corn, and dairy. So why is wheat the first ingredient when it's supposed to be helping dogs lessen allergies? I don't understand. Powdered cellulose, chicken meal. So we don't even have a fresh meat. And the first I'm seeing a meat source is the third ingredient. Then the next is whole grain corn. Again, a filler, carb source, not really, a filler, an allergen. Corn gluten meal. Chicken fat, cracked pearled barley, whole grain oats, chicken liver flavor, dried beet pulp, pork flavor, lactic acid, soybean oil, caramel color, flaxseed, choline chloride, potassium chloride, a ton of stuff I can't pronounce. And then you have your vitamin and mineral package. So essentially, the first few ingredients are going to be a carb source. So that's what they're using for their protein source. So this is where the issues come in. You're gonna have very little taurine in this food because it's chocked full of corn and wheat and soy and all of this stuff that is terrible for dogs. It makes them have gas, it makes them have allergies, and it's not giving them the taurine. All right, it cut me off again. Basically, what I was saying is that the prescription diet by Science Diet is not giving the animals the taurine that they need, but the vets are recommending it because they get kickbacks from the company, which is just completely corrupt. But yeah, that's where the issues are coming in. So that's all I was really saying. Okay, sorry if anything changed. My memory card was out of storage, so I had to go get a different one. So the next brand I'm going to be looking at is Pedigree. So their first ingredient is ground whole grain corn. So this causes allergies in dogs. And it's an awful thing to put in pet food. Their next ingredient is poultry byproduct meal, which, as I said before, you don't want it to be generic like poultry. You want it to be like chicken, but even if it's a byproduct meal. And you never want to see byproducts in pet food. So literally, that's poultry byproduct meal, so probably like feet, feathers, beaks, not even meat. And they're using that as their source of glucosamine and chondroitin, which glucosamine and chondroitin are for hip and joint support. So I don't know how that's a hip and joint support. Corn gluten meal, animal fat, not even a specific animal, source of omega-6 fatty acid, preserved with BHA and citric acid. So they're using BHA as a preservative. BHA is a preservative that gives the food a 5-year shelf life. In the short term, BHA causes allergy-like symptoms and it puts stress on the liver and the kidneys. And then in the long term, BHA is 100% linked to cancer. It's proven to be 100% linked to cancer. So how is it okay for them to put that in pet food? I don't understand. Meat and bone meal, so not even a specific meat, and it's not even one of the first few ingredients. Soybean meal, ground whole grain wheat. Wheat is another allergen for dogs. brewer's rice, natural flavor, chicken byproduct meal, so again, feet, feathers, beaks, dried plain beet pulp, salt, calcium carbonate, potassium chloride, choline chloride, dried peas, and then their vitamin mineral package, and it's preserved again with BHA, and then blue 2, yellow 5, yellow 6, so they're putting all these dyes in there that are extremely awful for anyone to be eating. I don't understand. This is a food with grain in it, so do you think it's better to be switching from Echana to Pedigree just because there's grains? And I just don't understand. If you compare these three foods, in Science Diet, the protein percent is 20.7%. Echana, the protein is 33%, and in Pedigree, the protein percentage is 21%. So the protein percentage is comparable. So some people may think, oh, that's good, it has enough meat content for my dog to be eating this. But if you compare the meat content, which is most important, the meat content in Science Diet prescription, WD, is 20%. In Echana, it is 70%. And in Pedigree, it is 10%. 10%. Are you, like, they're using corn and soy and wheat and all these just fillers and carbs that are just awful for the dogs as the plant-based protein. So the dog's not even getting the taurine that it needs. And that is what is causing the heart failure in dogs. Origin, which is made by the same brand, Champion, that makes Echana, the meat content is 85%. And they're using the healthy peas, the healthy lentils for the carb source, low on the glycemic index. They are not using it for the plant source. So when you compare these foods, do you really think that Science Diet, prescription, that is the prescription food that vets are recommending for these people to be switching from these great foods like Echana and Origin to switch to Science Diet just because they get kickbacks from the company? Honestly, it makes me so upset that this is happening. I don't understand why the FDA isn't looking into foods like Pedigree, Science Diet, Purina, Royal Canin, Bill Jack, like all these foods that have so many fillers and aren't even using meat as the source of protein. Why aren't these on the list? I don't understand. So essentially the point of this video is for me to hopefully get the point across to anybody who watches this. Hopefully people will watch this video. Do not switch your dog from a high quality food that has meat content as the protein source to a low quality food with grain that has plant-based protein sources. Please keep them. If you're going to switch to a grain food, a with grain food, make sure it has a high meat content. Holistic Select with grain. Eagle Pack has some with grain. Canidae has some with grain. If you feel more comfortable switching to a food with grain, Honest Kitchen, please, you can, like, do it. Do it. By all means, do it if it makes you more comfortable, but please make sure it is a high quality food. But honestly, keeping them on a high quality food without grain is completely healthy as long as they're getting the taurine, as long as they have the meat content, the healthy carbs. Like, your dog, it will be so much healthier. So that's pretty much what I wanted to get across with this video. Make sure you're looking at meat content and not protein percentage. Honestly, the FDA, I can't believe that they released this and that they're letting people do this to their dogs. I hope that you guys do your research before switching, before taking someone's word by it. Don't take my word if you don't want to, but please go research. I can't believe that Champion, there's going to be there's talk of a lawsuit against Champion, who's making these amazing foods, but there's no lawsuit against Purina or Pedigree, who's putting in these preservatives that literally will give your dog cancer and is using plant-based proteins as the protein source, putting ground corn as the first ingredient, which gives dogs allergies, and wheat, which gives dogs allergies. I don't understand how this is happening. So please make sure your dog is on a healthy diet. The pet food industry is corrupt right now. So please do your research, and I hope that this video helps somebody out there who's struggling with their dog's food. Just please do your research before getting your dog's food. Thanks, I hope this helps.